Welcome to Nowstalgia Year in Review. I'm Pat Sheehan with my co-host Dave Martinson. Dave, we're gonna be talking some music today. How are you feeling about 2019 as a music year?
A fast year, but I think it was a very good year. I quite enjoyed tons of music this year. Listened to tons of it.
Yeah, how many albums did you
Shit,
listen
I
to?
don't have the exact count. It's several hundred.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe 300 something.
We had to have reviewed over 100 ourselves
Yeah,
just for the
easy.
podcast.
hmm
So, if you want to go back and listen to all those and get our thoughts on the music that stood out to us this year or maybe did not stand out to us this year, go to youtube.com/nostalgiapod, hit subscribe, or go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod and listen to the podcast any way you enjoy it. I agree. In making these lists, we're going to be doing top albums and songs of 2019 today. But in making these lists, I was taken aback by just how much music I really, really liked this year. And compared to 2018, it felt like the highs of 2018 might have been a little bit higher for me. But I think the consistency of this year, it was very deep. I ended up making like a list of like 20 to maybe like 25 albums. I was like, I'd
Right.
consider this one or this one or this one. And then kind of paring it down was very tough for me. Was that kind of similar to your process?
Yeah, I actually had a much harder time making a songs list.
Mm-hmm.
Albums, though, yeah, I had a lot, and it was just like, how do I pick? What do I think makes a better statement by having on the list versus not, stuff like that. Similar thoughts and sentiments that we've shared for our decade lists that you can find on youtube.com/nostalgiapod. Actually, before we begin, I actually wanted to ask you, did you have anything that stood out to you as your most disappointing
Oh,
album of the year or
oh yeah.
lackluster album? I have one obvious answer.
I think we might have the same one. Chance the Rapper.
Correct.
Yeah, I
That's
was
like,
going through them all. I was like,
yeah.
damn, I had such high hopes for this Chance album and just very bland and basic.
Yes, I agree. The Big Day was not big for us, and that sucks.
Yeah, definitely sucks. Um, just to as a disclaimer here, so we're gonna be talking music lists a little bit, or song list after. We both, I think, tried to stay away from duplicating our list too much. For example, I probably could have put one or two Vampire Weekend songs in my songs of the year list, but that's no fun to talk about the same things twice. So our lists are gonna be fairly variant, but just know that a lot of the songs that are on our album list probably could have been up there for songs of the year for us as well, I'd imagine. Um,
Right.
why don't we jump in with number 10? Dave, what's your number 10 album of the year?
Yeah, my number 10 album is actually an album that we did not review on the pod because I came to it late, as did, I feel like, the whole music critical community.
Gex?
That would be 100 Gex, their debut album, 1000 Gex, all 1000 of the Gex. And yeah, this album came out May 31st, and so did another album that I put on my list that we'll get to later. But yeah, for whatever reason, we didn't talk about it. I first became aware of the name when they were announced as the opening act on Brockhampton's most recent tour. And apparently to that point, they hadn't really done any kind of live shows at all. This is a electronic music duo. And yeah, like the critics, the music podcast, the reviews, they started rolling out like several months later, which is, I think it's pretty rare to see mainstream music outlets actually review stuff for the first time way after release.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of cool to see that, I feel like an organic acknowledgement of an act like that. That was really cool. They had an EP that I also heard this year, right before this album as well. That came out last year. But the reason I have 1000 Gex on here is because I just think this Gex sound is just the craziest genre blending shit I ever heard this year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like electro pop with like pop punk influence and 303 influence and hip hop, and there's so much stuff thrown together, and not all of it works. That's the thing. I think there's tons of weird shit on this album, but when it hits, it's like unlike anything else. Songs like 745 Sticky or Money Machine. Yeah, 100 Gex, the most interesting electronic music I've heard this year pretty easily.
Wow. An album I've not listened to, but you've been talking to me a lot about them, and I think similar to Brockhampton a couple of years back, how you said I had to get into them. I definitely want to give them a shot because they seem like a very intriguing band, and I've seen a lot of praise for them from a lot of people I trust. So definitely gonna check them out. My number 10, we just talked about it on a podcast recently. Bubba by Kate Trinata. Just an album I found myself listening to nonstop since it came out.
Under the
And
Wire selection.
yeah, and with Kate Trinata, and we've talked about the state of EDM and how really there's only a couple of DJs out there right now that we find to be doing anything interesting.
Yep.
And Kate Trinata is certainly doing some interesting stuff. There's a lot of like classic Kate Trinata type sounds on here, things that you would have found on 99.9%, but the features he has, and obviously, as we talked about in our review, this is the first album he's dropped with RCA, so able to maybe get some more people on here. But like The Worst in Me, Midsection, Vex O, Oh No with Estelle, 10% Kaylee Eucas is just hit after hit on this.
Gray Area.
And they all sound so interesting and so alive and unique, and really just a pleasure to listen to that album. And shout out to Kate Trinata for getting that in Under the Wire. I had originally thought for this spot about putting an album that didn't make it in Under the Wire last year, which would have been 21 Savage, I Am Greater Than I Was. But I was kind of on the fence, like, is that too far away at this point? So I kind of left it off.
Yeah.
But
it came out December 21st, I believe. Yeah. I consider it as well.
Yeah. So I'm guessing it didn't make your list.
It did not. Last year I had Run the Jewels 3, even though that was like a December 2017, same thought. Yeah, honorable mention for 21 for sure. It looks like nothing major is going to get released between now and the second week of January when Selena Gomez drops, and I hope that sticks because I just feel like critical attention won't be as strong, and like there's no one's really looking for new stuff at this time, so we'll just wait. And it seemed like, because last year, Bad Bunny drops on like the 27th or something.
Yep.
And yeah, it sounds like we're going to be a little lucky. Everyone dropped last week with Harry and Keitra.
Why don't we jump to your number 9?
So my number 9 is perhaps the most widely listened to album on my list. That'd be Ariana Grande's Thank You Next. Just pop excellence, put simply. As soon as I heard it, I really loved it, and I was blown away by the fact that she was able to one-up herself so quickly after dropping Sweetener in the summer of 2018. I believe it was a 5-month wait in between those albums. And Thank You Next was just kind of Sweetener in itself was definitely a level up for her, where she finally stopped trying to impress us with her amazing vocal range and actually just focus more on the songcraft, side of being a pop artist. And then with Thank You Next, I just think the lyrical content, she really took it to a next level while still having all those pop bangers. You have a Max Martin classic like Bad Idea. You have an amazing NSYNC interpolation with Break Up With Your Girlfriend. You have a really heartfelt song that you can attribute to Mac Miller and Ghostin'. Other fun stuff like Imagine and NASA. There's just lots of pop bangers, but I think these are actually like pop songs that like can stand the test of time because there's actually some substance. So yeah, Thank You Next came out back in February. It's been a long time at this point, but yeah, banger season.
One of my honorable mentions. Ariana just absolutely dominated with that album, and when I was reviewing my album, or when I was going through this list, I kind of felt like a lot of what I came to was artists, specifically female artists, I felt like took a step up this year from how I had viewed them. A lot of them, I think, showing me a little bit more than I had expected or anticipated I would, in terms of how much I would like their albums. So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about some of the artists, but Ariana for sure was one of those. I wasn't a huge Ariana fan before this album, and I think there's a lot to like there. Number 9 for me, a new female artist, Little Sims, Gray Area. So Dave, we reviewed this back in, I believe it was like March or February. March 1st it came out.
Yes.
And uh, Lil Sims, this rapper from the UK, really surprised me with like the lusciousness of this album. It kind of reminded me of uh, a bit of like a mix of like Vince Staples and Tyler the Creator type vibes in terms of
Huh,
like the uniqueness to the album, but
sure.
also the depth of the lyrics, having something to say, making it ultra personal. I mean, one of the tracks on this is called Therapy, and it's literally like she's talking with a therapist and kind of really observing her thoughts. Um, and I was really blown away by this, and I feel like Little Sims, if there's one artist that's still kind of flying under the radar, but feels like there's just potential to be great there, and that's just kind of come about this year. It's got to be her, and she kind of jumps into that discussion of great female rappers that really broke out this year. And there's quite a few of them, and we were even talking about this last year with names like No Name, Tierra Whack. Again, then
Hmm.
this year, Rico Nasty, Megan the Stallion, just to name a few. But Lil Sims feels like she's poised to have a really, really solid career. And this album, Gray Area, is great. 101 FM just kind of jumped on shuffle the other day, and I was just like bobbing
Hmm.
around to it. It's such a good track, man. So a lot to like there. Was this on your list?
So the album did not make my list as honorable mention, but 101 FM might be coming up later.
Ah,
So,
okay. We'll talk
yeah.
about it then.
Hmm.
Number 9, Lil Sims, Gray Area for me. Moving on to 8.
So 8 for me is had to have 8. Eight for me. Someone you just mentioned, Megan Thee Stallion,
Ooh.
debut mixtape Fever. It's funny when we did the review, we were like, "Is this her album? Is it not?" She's clarified on Instagram that it is in fact her mixtape. So
Mm.
the hype for the Megan debut album, quote unquote, not that that means anything to her anymore. 2020, I guess. But
Ooh.
yeah, so Megan Thee Stallion, man. You just kind of spoke to it, but I think the most important central theme of hip hop in 2019, again, the dominating genre, in our society, that would be the rise of the female MC, and not just the quantity, but the quality to boot. And Megan certainly was, I think, the fastest riser of the bunch. With obviously real hot girl shit, hot girl summer. Like she became a meme, she became a force in herself. But following up the early EP success she had in 2018, songs like Big Old Freak, she dropped a lot more bangers and just kind of proved that, yeah, she's a really uh, capable rapper that I think deserves to have her voice heard. I think the first track on Fever, Realer, I think is my
Mm.
favorite song. And then you'll see a lot of Cash Shit featuring DaBaby. You'll see that on a lot of lists this year. And I think ultimately it's a short, I think 30-minute tape, but little fat on it. It's just it's got that energy, but more importantly, I think it's just was a really fun coming out party, and it's cool that she just became a star just like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, just a complete breakout for her, twerking her way all the way to the top. Yeah, it's been awesome to see her and the baby really become these like mammoths in the field all of a sudden, just everywhere, dominating all the time. It's great. Good pick. My number 8, an album. I started with Kate Shinoda, which was a recent album that came out one of the first weeks of the year. James Blake, Assume Form.
Nice.
Yeah, we when we talked about this album, and we were talking about leveling up. James Blake was an artist that I think for both of us had songs here and there that we really liked, but we never really felt like he was able to put it together and make a really solid album. And then Assume Form came about, and as a work of art as a whole, I feel like this album flows beautifully. It has great transitions from song to song. It doesn't sound like any other album I've listened to this year. A song like "Can't Believe the Way We Flow" just is like such a distinct James Blake track, and especially the way it like almost like restarts in the middle, and beautifully done. And this really feels like James Blake was able to take his own personal endeavors, relationships, and kind of put them in a way that was packaged. I think that's more palatable for most music fans. And this just feels like the absolute best that James done yet. And It's a pleasure listening to this. Songs like Mile High with Travis Scott, Metro Boomin, even those songs that may not be the best tracks on the album, I think still are fun to listen to. I really like the track with Andre 3000, Where's the Catch? That's just an
Yeah.
absolute banger to me.
Where's the catch?
Yep. And then the last like four, I just find myself kind of listening to and really enjoying the way that they flow together. So Assume Form, my number 8 album of the year. Moving on, number 7. What do you got?
Number 7 for me, making my list 2 years in a row. That'd be Denzel Curry, Zoo. Zoo came out the same day as 100 Gex, funny enough. And Megan came out 2 weeks before Gex and Denzel. And I have another May album coming up. Somehow I picked 4 May albums. Did not plan it that way. But yeah, Denzel Curry's Zoo. Again, more of a mixtape feel, similar to Megan. But, Denzel really showing out in the critical sense and really becoming I think a really well-respected rapper last year with Taboo, which was, a really dark conceptual album that was quite detailed. To follow it up just a year later with Zoo, which he claims he freestyled, this really fun, energetic album that's true to his Miami roots, but still also deep. Like, listen to like the lead single Ricky, he's able to make, I just think, lots of great bangers while also maintaining, his message. And we always kind of flock to that, where sometimes lyrical rappers struggle to make songs that people actually want to turn on. That's not Denzel's issue. On this, was it Automatic? That's a Take Keith beat that he's able to flip and make into a Denzel Curry song. One of the hottest rappers that we have an idea of what Take Keith sounds like, but Denzel's able to twist it to his own use. And of course, we had a Rick Ross feature on here, which is not the first time they've collaborated, but the first time since Denzel got really well respected. So
yeah. Birds is a great song.
Yeah. So Denzel Curry's Zoo, man. He's still at the top of my list for artists I have not yet seen that I would really like to see live.
Great pick. That was one of the hardest ones for me to leave off my list. Definitely an honorable mention. This album rules, and it's just, there's so much energy to it, and it feels like such a good way to describe Denzel Curry. He just feels like a ball of energy, just spitting out tracks. So excellent choice. My number 7, an album we talked about, and I talked about liking a lot, On the Line by Jenny Lewis. Jenny Lewis was an artist who I was aware of, but never really sank my teeth into, never really caught me. And then this album is just so catchy from start to finish. And there's so many tracks that are just absolutely delightful. And it's all this this talk about addiction and, addiction in multiple ways, talking about her mom and her mom's heroin addiction, but then also in the same song, Wasted Youth, mentioning addiction to Candy Crush and how that has a similar, I think, or has similarities in terms of how it affects culture and the people who find themselves addicted to these things. But she really jumps around with these really personal topics, but packages them in ways that feel so poppy and fun, and you just find yourself bobbing your head to. Like Red Bull and Hennessy feels just like a really fun track, but really this commentary on partying and connecting with friends, losing friends. You kind of go down the line, like a song like On the Line, probably my favorite track from the album, a really personal song about a relationship and being left, and it's still just a delight to listen to, and you keep running it back even though it's maybe not the most fun stuff to be sitting with. So just a delight of an album. Really enjoyed Jenny Lewis on this, and I'm excited to see where she goes next, because if she can keep delivering these, I'll keep listening. So number 7, On the Line. Dave, moving on to number 6. What do you got?
Number 6 for me is Solange, When I Get Home, which dropped back in March 1st, same day as Little Sims. Did this make your list?
It did not, and I was really debating it, because as a as an album, it's fantastic, and it all flows together really well, almost kind of like an Earl album in a sense. Like,
Hmm.
it just it's so unique, and I just didn't find myself going back to it much.
Sure.
And for how much I found myself going back to the other ones, I wanted to maybe highlight some other albums. I figured you'd have it, so.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, this was kind of the hotly awaited follow-up to See at the Table back in
Mhm.
2016, which was the reestablishment of Solange as a solo artist after a lot of time out of the spotlight. And
Mhm.
I think I don't think it gets to the highs of A Seat at the Table. Songs like Cranes in the Sky, Don't Touch My Hair. Those are some like really world class R&B songs. But I think When I Get Home, uh, still honestly is really slick. You know, Stay Flow. I really love that song. Thought about putting it on my songs list, to be honest.
Mhm.
Almeida, great Cardi feature. That song bops. Bins is really good.
Yeah, Bins is great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just really slick you know, message filled R&B. And
Mhm.
it's funny. I can't really even think of any other R&B albums I really loved this year. And this one's already been out so long, and unfortunately the Grammys overlooked this project, which felt really shocking to me. But yeah, Solange is super talented and thoughtful, and you can see it even in the videos for this album. They're all kind of connected, and some are way less high budget than others, but it's just a good time. So yeah,
Yeah,
Solange number 6.
excellent album, and great choice by you. Number 6 for me. I'm wondering if you had this on your list. Norman fucking Rockwell by Lana Del Rey.
That is number 3 for me.
Ah, so we'll be talking about it a little bit more, or we can just talk about it now.
Yes, do it now.
Um, Lana Del Rey. So, talking about artists that felt like they leveled up. Another artist who I recognized that she has a large fan base. People love her. She kind of fits in this like emo pop world, kind of. Like maybe a more polished Billie Eilish before Billie Eilish was around, in a sense.
Huh.
Like,
Hmm.
or at least a different vibe. But I think we both kind of talked about it in our review that she never really caught our attention, or we never really
Oh,
dug her as much as other people. But then Norman fucking Rockwell comes out. Man, talk about leveling up. Uh, you pair up with Jack Antonoff, and
the secret
she
sauce.
delivers song after song on this. Yeah, that is just beautiful, really, and such a commentary on like current culture on all these tracks. I mean, the first the first track talking about man child, the first line
Hmm.
talking about man child is just hilarious, but also so like apt, I think, for the state of like feminism and the way male and female relations are being kind of
Sure.
critiqued at the moment. um and then you kind of move down the line, and like this a song like the next great best American record, the greatest, which is probably my favorite song on this track.
Mm.
And Kanye West is Blonde and Gone. Yep. I think I'll be interested to see if we're talking more about Kanye West today. But yeah, just uh, I was impressed with how well she was able to construct an album that felt cohesive, but also I think more appealing than some of her past works. Why this fall number 3 for you?
Yeah, Lana finally, to me, backed up the huge microscope that had been on her career and her celebrity with the music.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of Norman fucking Rockwell, which is what her 6th album, um, I finally get what it means to be Lana Del Rey. Like that 50s, 60s Americana that's always kind of been a aspect of her music, of her aesthetic, of her videos. Now finally I think makes sense to me because she's coming at it with a modern day worldview, as you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
right from the first track. And she's someone who has kind of like played in and around like feminist ideas, but never really explored anything that profoundly in her past work. And I think that has changed finally. And just in terms, I mean, you mentioned Jack Antonoff's pretty prolific on this, but I mean, in terms of song structure, a song like Venice Bitch, which has like a really infectious first like 2.5 minutes and then a really long extended outro. Just I think a really cool way that was made. Then you followed up 2 songs later with a honestly really awesome Sublime cover of Doing Time, you know? And you mentioned The Greatest. We might be talking about that again in a second. But yeah, I think the more I reflected on this when I was making the album, I was like, yeah, there's just like so much to this album. I think really, really holds up. Like you can take away any of these, like most of these songs, just kind of put them on and be like, yeah, like this is peak Lana.
Mm-hmm.
And when there's that much of that all in one project, I feel like you got to include it.
Yeah, well said. And this album was a delight. Definitely one of the best of the year. Let's move on to number 5. What would you have at 5, Dave?
Number 5 for me is YBN Corday, The Lost Boy.
Wow, good choice.
Of all the records I heard this year, this was definitely the one that met the hype the best and thus made me feel so fulfilled because I had been anticipating and hyping up the promise of YBN Corday, who had not released a solo project under that name since he had rose into prominence in 2018. And then what we get with this album is more proof of his incredible technical rap ability and, you know, pretty dexterous flows, but also I think the ability to provide conscious rap that also bangs. Again, something that I just said before with Lil Sims, you know, is easier said than done. And he even provides like more throwback vibes with a song like R&P where he's doing couplets with Anderson .Paak, right? And for me, like I know like we can criticize some of the flows on this. I think sometimes the flow is a little simple and sometimes the puns can be a little corny, but this album for me was just like a coronation of just the talent and like the potential being realized already. Again, we had talked before about how he had the Dr. Dre co-sign without an official project out yet. Definitely quite the stamp of approval. And you know, he was able to get inspired features from Pusha and Meek on this, and of course Anderson. So yeah, for me it was just the coronation of like a new rising star, and I just felt so happy with the quality of it when it came out, and I've run back a lot of the songs. I felt like, you know, I'm definitely going to remember this is, you know, the year that YBN Corday really started.
Yeah, I think if for me, who's maybe not as definitely not as tuned into the rap world as you are, this was like a coming out party for him, and it felt like such an establishing of like, all right, I'm going to be here for a while. So a worthy pick. Glad you put it on there. Number 5 for me was Brittany Howard's first solo album, Jamie. Brittany Howard, you know, the lead singer of the Alabama Shakes. We talked about her a bit. You know, we even I think mentioned her on the Best of the Decade podcast we did. So check that out. This album, I had no idea what this was going to sound like. You know, we prior to the singles being released and like the word that there was an album forthcoming, followed it more into like what the last Alabama Shakes album sounded like, which was you know, genre blending, but a bit more stripped down, a bit more acoustic. And she's really all over the map on this, right? So she is some songs like 13th Century Metal is a fucking rock metal song and just going hard while she does some like trancy spoken word over these awesome instrumentals. But then you have songs like Stay High, which is just like a singer songwritery acoustic bop, and one of the sweetest songs of the year in my opinion. I was absolutely blown away not only by Britney's vocals on this, but she expertly talks about her experiences of being discriminated against in her childhood growing up in Georgia, talking about her own sexuality and her identity as a gay female and a black gay female at that. And really just one of the albums this year that has stuck with me, and I find myself revisiting a couple of the songs a couple times a week because it's just always a pleasure to hear them. And her voice is just one of the best out there, I think. So Jamie by Brittany Howard, my number 5. Number 4 for you, Dave.
Number 4 for me is, oh fuck, I don't think I have a picture for this. Number 4 for me is FKA Twigs, Magdalene.
My number 1.
Oh fuck! All right. Yeah, I think this is another
Let's
example.
talk about it.
Yeah, there's another example of an artist blowing past previous expectations, and I think delivering a full body of work that was not anticipated to be this impressive. You know, like LP1 was the first time. You know, and catching up recently with FK Twigs in anticipation for the album. LP1 was the first time I really started to get what it meant to like this art pop, alt pop sound. You know what it was, and yeah, there's some really good songs on that. But then hearing Magdalene, and just the way that Twiggy can communicate the emotional distress she's had in her life in the tabloids and racial identity, and there's a lot of deep shit on this, and just kind of deliver this really unique sound. I was just really impressed. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of malpractice not to include this album.
Oh, dude, I mean, this album is pretty close to perfection in my book. You know, as I'm like scrolling through the track list here on my phone, because I'm just thinking about each song, I keep hearing it kind of just come through, like the Mary Magdalene, or Fallen Alien. Like her vocals on that are so like haunting, but like beautiful at the same time. And the production all over this, you know, we talked about it at the time, but she had a lot of people helping her refine this album and really make it, I think, have a real feel to it, you know. And I think what FKA Twigs does so expertly throughout this is she establishes a mood, but then she is able to like you said, sprinkle in all these different topics in these songs, but still maintaining this vibe throughout that just carries a feeling with you. And it feels like there's so much emotion in every single one of these songs. And you know, one of the reviews I read about this at the time was it feels like you can almost feel her physicality coming through. And I guess it's hard, especially if you see like the Cellophane video and you see like her physicality as a dancer and just how much she is able to do with her body as a instrument for art. But it just feels like this is like almost her opus in a way as an artist. And you know, Art Pats doesn't take a lot of L's, but I think FKA Twigs really handed him one on this. So definitely my favorite album of the year, and I think certainly a worthy choice for any list. Like you said, it's almost malpractice to not have it on there. Number 4 for me, a song, an album I don't think you'll have on your list, Dave. Vampire Weekend, Father of the Bride.
Actually, no, just kidding.
I was gonna say, there's no way that you're gonna have this on here. When we reviewed it, I think you talked about how you liked it, but you like, it's fine. They're still soft, right?
Correct. Yeah, it was my favorite of their albums.
Yeah,
and but still not my cup of tea.
And I think Vampire Weekend with this, it feels like a bit of a departure from their traditional sound. You know, they're usually very tight, these very uppity type sounding songs. This feels a little bit more in line with classic rock, I'd say. You know, a lot of the singles like Harmony Hall or This Life had the very like Van Morrison, early Rolling Stones type feel to them.
Sure.
And I think that really added a piece to it. But when I revisit this album, and I revisit it a lot. It's, you know, if you check out my Spotify,
shocking.
Yeah, if you check out my Spotify year-end Wrapped, it's 4 of my top 5 songs played this year from this album. I'm really impressed with the songwriting on it, and interestingly enough, Casey Musgraves and Ezra collaborated on a lot of the writing on this album. And he felt very inspired by the way that she writes her songs, and maybe that's something to do with it because he also got a lot of credits on her album last year, Golden Hour. And I feel like they explore so many different sounds that Vampire Weekend hasn't put into their music before, but it all comes out sounding really, really good. Um, going like from a song like I already said, like This Life, which has a very like Van Morrison feel to it, to something like Sympathy, which is like this like almost like mariachi band type feel, where it's just so much like anxiety and like intensity in this song, and ending in these like I don't even know what the instrument is, but he's like at the end, it's so good. Then you go something like Sunflower, which feels like it's this like jazzy pop song. 2021 and Flower Moon are a bit more like Flower Moon, same vein as like Sunflower, a little bit more like jazzy pop, but
Mm-hmm.
like 2021 or We Belong Together are songs that feel like they are just these like ballads kind of in a way, but like these softer ballads. So there's a lot to like on here. Vampire Weekend, Ezra Koenig continue to be some of my some of my favorite work, and highly recommend. If you don't like them, see them live, because I think you'll get a different feel for them. But Father of the Bride, my number 4. Dave, your number 3 was already talked about, correct?
That would be Lana. Yes.
I think I'm talking about one of your top albums then, Igor by Tyler the Creator. Where's it fall for you?
Igor is number 1 for me.
I'll let you take the floor then. Go for it.
No, this was Tyler capitalizing on the kind of reawakening he showed us in Flower Boy, while also being able to, I think, satisfy his own creative desires by being like the sole producer, arranger, mixer, all that for this album. And it didn't turn out like Cherry Bomb. It actually was freaking incredible.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the best rap album of the year, even though it's not really a rap album. Mm-hmm. And it's just kind of cool to see how far Tyler's come. But I think you can listen to Igor for the really cool production. You can try and listen for more of Tyler telling his story. You can just try and listen to singular songs and have a good time doing that, whether it's like A Boy's a Gun or Earthquake, whatever it may be.
Earthquake.
There's just a lot here. It's actually a pretty dense album, but it's also accessible.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's just kind of a gift that keeps on giving if you listen to it intricately with good headphones.
Yeah, and it's so cohesive, and it all like there's no bad track on this at all, and it's all very interesting. But I specifically love the ending. Are We Still Friends? Feels like this like almost like this crooning type song in a sense, and I'm just like, how could Tyler the Creator have gone from being the guy that did Yonkers at the beginning of the decade, talked about on our best of the decade songs list, to being this guy? And he does it so well, and I think you kind of summed it up perfectly. But this is an album I don't skip any songs start to finish. The production on this is interesting, and he did all the production himself. I think it's his masterpiece today, and Igor, definitely one of the top songs of the year. Dave, what was your number 2 album then? Because I think we're both missing our number 2s.
Number 2 for me, Billie Eilish. When we all fall asleep, where do we go?
Wow, this is high.
This is pop music in 2019. I think we might have talked about at the beginning. The Billie Eilish breakout was not unforeseen. This was not a secret. She was already very, very famous before this album came out. And at the time, before we got this album, which came out end of March, I think me and you both kind of viewed her as low rent lord, or like the records aren't here yet. Cool aesthetic. Impressive that she's doing this at a young age. She just turned 18, I think, this week. But the sound wasn't there. And honestly, the album blew away my expectations when I heard it. And, this girl with her kind of like a goth aesthetic, but it does not get into the music at all. But she's also just kind of like embodying the Gen Z icon that she is, talking about what it means to have teen angst at the end of the 2010s. all while doing that with these really cool lo-fi beats and an understated delivery and office drops and really fun songs. It's this kind of like alt pop is, I think, it's kind of, I think it's going to change pop. If you think about, I
Mm.
mean, I had a lot of pop records on my list and they're all quite different, FKA Twigs, Lana, Ariana, and Billie. But Billie, um, I think probably has the biggest impact of them all, just because she's kind of shaping and leading the sound of tomorrow. So
Of the youth, of the youth.
correct.
Yeah, no, Billy. Uh, we talked about like the at the Grammys, like the best new artist category is absolutely stacked. And we're gonna be talking about a couple of the other ones who are in that category soon, I think. But Billy feels like she's just poised to be like almost like a Cobain type figure for the generation below us, where she just seems to like tap into something that other artists haven't been able to yet, while also making her shit just sound super good, like just really
Hmm.
interesting. And um, yeah, I'm excited to see where she goes. This was an honorable mention for me, so I'm glad that you had it on your list. Wrapping up my list, my number two was Sound and Fury from Sturgill Simpson. Um,
Nice.
Probably my favorite rock album of the year, coming from a country artist. And uh, this album, we talked about when it came out, how it was accompanied by a anime film on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I forgot
Um,
about that.
yeah, and Sturgill is just a really interesting guy. He's a great songwriter. Um, he's experimented with a lot of different sounds since he broke out at the beginning of the decade. Um, and this album to me goes so fucking hard. The
Hmm.
guitars on this are
Dope.
incredible to listen to. And he also jumps around as he's telling this like I don't know, futuristic type story about I don't know, like killers and
Hmm.
uh
Being on the run, I think.
yeah,
I
being
kind of
on the
forget.
run. It's like a whole there's like a whole plot to it, but then he kind of comes in near the end with Mercury in retrograde and makes like this
Hmm.
dancey song that you never would ever expect uh Sturgill Simpson to be able to put out. And you're just like, man, this guy just like he's a fantastic song creator. And this is another album where I'll hear a song kind of pop up in like shuffle that I hadn't heard in a while. I'll be like, this song is fantastic, and then I'll remember it's from this album. I'll be like, man, album ruled. So, Sound and Fury, my number two of the year. You want to run through your albums list quick, and then we'll jump to songs.
Yeah, yeah. 100 Gex, 1,000 Gex, Ariana Grande, Thank You Next, Megan Thee Stallion, Fever, Denzel Curry, Zoo, Solange, When I Get Home, YB and Corday, The Lost Boy, FKA Twigs, Magdalene, Lana Del Rey, Norman, fucking Rockwell, Billie Eilish, When We All Fall Asleep, Where We Go, and Tyler the Creator, Igor. 10 albums.
Nice. My 10 to 1. Bubba by Kate Trinata. 9. Little Sims, Gray Area. Assume Form, James Blake. On the Line, Jenny Lewis. Norman fucking Rockwell by Lana Del Rey. Jamie by Brittany Howard. Number 4, Father of the Bride, Vampire Weekend. Igor, Tyler the Creator. 2, Sound and Fury, Sturgill Simpson. And 1, Magdalene, FKA Twigs. Mary Magdalene, Mary Magdalene.
We had 4 of the same albums, so a lot of variety.
A lot of variety. Any honorable mentions for you that we didn't
Uh,
already shout out?
Yeah, I think we shout out some, like, some for me, like Little Sims. Charlie XCX was a really tough cut for me. I really loved
Mm,
Charlie. Um, I like the Two Chains album a lot. I like James Blake, as you said. I like Gold Link's album. I liked Earth Gang. I love Freddie Gibbs and Madlib. Um, Young Thug's album is fantastic. Rhapsody was really good once again. What we expect from her. Vanity wise, I love the Beast Coast album. I listened to that a ton.
hmm.
And I also listened to Octavian's album a lot. Probably not even the best UK. I think Skepta is better. I think Lil Sims is
Stormzy.
better. And Stormzy was really great too. But Octavian, I ran back a lot. So
A
yeah, I love this year. There was a lot of good shit from famous people and brand new people.
lot of good shit. I had Better Oblivion Community Center by Better Oblivion Community Center.
Con Obist.
I had I by Bon Iver as an honorable mention. Lover by Taylor Swift
Yep.
Was up there
Same.
for me. And I also had Ventura by Anderson .Paak. I think a bit of an underrated album because it is probably maybe the least interesting Anderson album of the past few years.
I'd
Doesn't
agree.
mean it's not really good. And also like my own pick, Angel's Pulse by Blood Orange. I found myself coming back to a lot. I was just re-listening to it the other day, and the song "Take It Back" with Joba came on. The song is fantastic, man.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't one of my songs of the year though. Before we jump into what our best songs of 2019 are, I wanted to ask you: did you have any thoughts on just like the singles or maybe like the non-album thoughts regarding music this year?
I mean, nothing we haven't said before. I think generally singles are just becoming more important than albums. I think to a lot of people, albums are just an arrangement of songs now. They're like the concept or the cohesiveness of an album is often not on the mind for listeners anymore with this, on-demand listening environment that, we're so used to at this point. So, yeah, I mean, you see it more in hip hop, but just the prevalence of singles sometimes being all an artist is going on the radio show to promote, it's just kind of how we've changed. So, I'm just looking at my list real quick. I would say just about all of these are in fact singles, but ultimately I still think, the album deep cuts almost are kind of like more fun to talk about with people just because it does seem like singles really just dominate all the playlists these days. But I mean, do you have any thoughts about that? I mean,
when I found myself going through the songs this year that really stood out to me as like the best songs, so, like I said, I'm not including songs from any of the albums we talked about before. I think what I found standing out to me was just how at the top of my list it was people who have come up almost out of nowhere, and it really feels like the internet's influence has like started to really show its teeth in these. I mean, obviously people like Justin Bieber who came up through YouTube have dominated the charts in the past, but so looking through the ones right at the top, I don't want to spoil anything. Like one of them is a teen sensation we just talked about, who was pretty much famous before her music ever really backed it up. Another one was someone that kind of became internet famous this year with the release of a new album. Another one was someone whose music was stolen from them and released prior. So like just like the effect that the internet had in these really stands out to me. Just like another one is a rock band that I'll talk about in a second, who I think the internet caught their single and really gave them a lot more attention than they ever would have gotten. So I think the impact that the internet has on how these stars rise into the attention stands out.
TikTok can just make you now, get hot there. That's all I can take.
Follow Dad Jokes or whatever Adam's TikTok is, or don't follow
Dad Joke Jesus.
Dad Joke Jesus. All right, why don't we start? I want to go first. Number 10 for me. I cheated a little bit. I picked 2 because I couldn't differentiate. I wanted to have a perfect pop song on this list, right? And it came down to 2 for me. Carly Rae Jepsen, Want You in My Room, and Taylor Swift, I Think He Knows. These 2 songs to me are just fucking pop magic.
Jams.
Yeah, just every time I hear them, I find myself bobbing along. My mood instantly increases. The Taylor song, probably her catchiest off her new album. I don't know if I'll say best, but catchiest for sure. And just when it kind of comes in, when her vocals just like rise at the end, it's just like
heartbeat.
Yep. And Carly Rae Jepsen, this song was one of my top 5 most listened to songs of 2019 on Spotify.
I didn't notice that. Wow.
Yeah. Want You in My Room. Just it's like bubblegum. I keep chewing it over and over, and I don't get sick of it. So yeah, these 2 songs are pure pop magic. Go listen to them. Any thoughts on that, Dave? Saw you laughing.
No. Shout out Carly Rae Jepsen, another great album, another album overlooked by the Grammys, unfortunately. A lot of jams on there, and yeah, Taylor. she didn't make our album list, but definitely got back in those critical graces. And I think he knows is just kind of the easiest on that track list just to throw on, because it's just really fun and kind of that classic Taylor that we've, most people really started to like since like the Red days,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I agree. What's your number 10?
My number 10 is Slide Away by Miley Cyrus.
Ooh,
Yeah, I think this is her best song.
ever?
Yeah, I do.
Nah, it's the Climb, dog.
Boring, lame. But you're not alone in that sentiment, I guess.
It's the Climb.
This really kind of like blew me away. This came out after that She Is Coming EP, which we actually like, I think, had positive takeaways from, because it was like Miley kind of getting back to her most successful phase of her career from a sonic perspective. And then hearing Slide Away, where she's kind of getting into finally moving on from Liam Hemsworth, the loss of her house in the Thousand Oaks fire, kind of talking about some really personal, tough stuff she's been through, but ultimately just kind of reminding everyone that she's a really good vocalist, and I think a bit of an underrated songwriter when she's focusing on the right type of sounds, and particularly the VMA performance, some performance she did. It's on YouTube. The live version of this song, where we get to really hear Miley's pipes, I think it's better than the studio recording. It's quite superb. So yeah, I love this song.
Nah, it's a good choice. Miley is interesting, right? I mean, she's such a unique personality. I was laughing because you said she's finally getting over her relationship with Liam Hemsworth. Didn't they just like break up beginning of this year?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
She's finally getting over it. I'm kidding though. No,
they've been on again, off again before.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I understand what you're saying. But no, I agree. This is a good pick. Number 9 for me, following Taylor Swift, I had to put a Kanye song. Use This Gospel, Kanye
Sure.
West clips, and Kenny G. So Jesus is King came and went. I think a bit disappointing for those who were hoping Kanye would drop a record that was as mind-blowing as they usually are. But this song was definitely my favorite song off of that album, and I think this song is just absolute flames. Kanye sounds great at the beginning. It's very simple with the beat. There's not much bass to this, I guess. That would be like my one critique of it. But when Clips comes in, they just absolutely murder it, and then it it leads into a Kenny G solo that then leads to like just an awesome outro with a lot of bass to it. So for as much as Jesus is King was disappointing, and I think people continue to just kind of say, why would I give Kanye attention at this point? Use This Gospel, I think, still shows that Kanye has it and can have it, but maybe he needs to kind of find his way back to be more consistent with the sound. I'm guessing you Use This Gospel wasn't your number 9, so what do you got?
My number 9, I forgot to add the photo. More on Kanye real quick. I thought about picking a song of his, and I didn't. And it's like, do I feel bad about that? Because I didn't pick the album on the list. And
do you feel bad about it? Don't feel bad.
I don't know, because like I really liked Follow God. Like Follow God is a banger, but I guess it's not like, I guess, super memorable. We're also holding it to the Kanye standard.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel weird not picking a Kanye song, but I didn't pick a Kanye song.
Yeah.
But yeah, my number 9 is Meet Again by Maxo Cream. He dropped this single back in January. The album came out, I want to say, back in July. Brandon Banks, his second album. And Maxo Cream, not a famous rapper, from Houston. He collabs with his more famous Houston contemporaries on this, Travis and Megan. And Meet Again, I think, is probably the most accessible Maxo song, just because it's him talking about his really interesting and I think kind of robust come up and story
Mhm.
about running drugs and being in jail and some real street shit. And this song also has an amazing beat and it's like fun to listen to. And his verses, like this, the storytelling strengths that is what Max the Cream is all about, I think just really shines. So definitely an underrated, under listened to rap song this year. But yeah, I think pound for pound, perhaps one of the best. So,
What a great name, Maxo Cream.
mm-hmm.
Oof, fire. Number 8 for me, a song I know that you like as well. BM by Black Midi.
Oh,
She
sure.
moves with a purpose.
It's a good pick. Inspired choice.
Thanks, man.
Lagenheim.
You know, this the album was probably at the back end of my 20s, maybe just in terms of I didn't feel like a lot of the songs popped off to me as much
Yeah.
as with lasting, but this song is so memorable for the vocal performance. I mean, it's so unique and it's like it's such a weird song. It's like
Yeah.
this thumping like over and over like drum, but
They're weird dudes.
yeah, but man, this it's just a really great rock song. And when they start to like lose it at the end, and the guitar just starts screeching, and they start like screaming, and the drums are just fucking crashing down. It's everything that makes rock music awesome, and like hard rock music awesome. And I feel so excited to have a band like Black Midi kind of moving into the conscious of music because it feels like I think this kind of gets put on up and coming rock bands a lot that they can be like the saviors of rock, but I do think that Black Midi could start to bring a more um, a more traditional hard rock sounding sound back into mainstream. Now they are weird, so they could take any direction with their music moving forward, but uh, I hope to hear more songs like BM from Black Midi. Um, but yeah, I have a feeling it was not a song that's going to be on yours, so I definitely wanted to highlight them a bit. Um, I'm looking here. I think I have only. No, I have a couple more rock songs on here, but I only think I had like 3 or 4 in total, which is a bit of a move away because in my albums I feel like it was fairly well diversified. What's your number 8, Dave?
My number 8 is Family and Loyalty by Gangstar featuring J. Cole. The first Gangstar song in 16 years, the lead single off that new album. What's the name of the album? One
J.
of the
Cole, the
best.
feature king, the best yet, or something
One
like
of the
that.
best. Yeah, the Gangstar album, which I thought about picking for the list, ultimately just became an honorable mention. Um, because it's half a posthumous album.
One of the best yet, by the way.
One of the best yet, right? Because it's half a posthumous album, um, felt a little sacrilege to pick it, but Premier did a really good job with what the verses they had, and as you said, J. Cole, truly the feature king the last 2 years. He's really risen in estimation in my book in terms of as an artist. He's been a superstar for so long, but really kind of coming to his own. And this is one of his best verses ever, and it fits the song to a T. And just about giving you that 90s sensibility, that throwback lyrical sound on a really tough beat, a primo beat at that. But also, like, you can just bump this song.
Yep.
Like, it's simple, but it's great.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I wish we had mentioned this before. I really enjoyed this Gangstar album, and just an album we didn't think we'd be reviewing in 2019, but we ended up and we loved it. Number 7 for me, another rock band, and not a very popular rock band, more up and coming, Mannequin Pussy, and their song "Drunk 2," which as I was putting
Interesting.
this list together, it reminded me a lot of last year how Camp Cope was getting a lot of love for their song "The Opener." Right? It talked about these issues of females not getting the attention, being looked down upon within the rock world, that they can only be the opener, they can't be the headlining act, and all this stuff. And Drunk 2 tells a story of this abusive relationship and how all their friends are telling them to get out of this relationship, and they're so strong for staying with this person, and how they finally like basically say goodbye to this relationship. And not only does it feel incredibly empowering, but it's a really, really well crafted song. And Mannequin Pussy, they rock, man. Like they
They
bring a
do.
ton of energy to their sound, and they may not be the most refined band at this point, but there's a lot of feeling in what they make. And Drunk 2, I think, is probably the best song off of that album, and also just a really fantastic song in general. So my number 7. What do you got for your number 7?
My number 7 for me, something we just talked about before, that'd be Little Sims 101 FM. I don't have to belabor the point, but 101 FM, like, because that beat kind of has like an Asian vibe to it, and then you hear Sims really ride a really fun beat like that, but still not sacrificing her really detailed lyrics in all of her intricate verses. It's it's a bop that still has a message, and like most of that album, Gray Area. So yeah, Little Sims, definitely an underrated song, like all the songs on that album, but I think pretty special.
Great choice. Number 6 for me, an album that was my honorable mention was I by Bon Iver, and the song Hey Ma, one of the singles off the album. It's my number 6 of the year. Really emotional song, moving, talking about like staying in touch with the things that actually matter to you, staying connected with family, staying connected with who you are as a person, not letting wealth corrupt you. And this is immediately upon release of the song, one of like the top 5 Bon Iver songs ever. And I think that's saying something, because he's a very well-established artist, incredibly talented, and just a really beautiful song. So I feel like this kind of highlights everything Bon Iver does well: songwriting, song crafting. Definitely one of my favorite songs of this year. So my number 6, Hey Ma, Bon Iver. What do you got for your number 6?
So for me, I said before that if we think about rap in 2019, we think of the ladies really killing it across the board, and a bunch of new stars like Megan Thee Stallion and Doja Cat, Saweetie, the list goes on, City Girls. But if you look at the dudes, there was only one guy who rose his profile to this level, and that would be DaBaby, releasing 2 albums during the year, lots of good features, hot songs. A lot of people would pick Suge for their list, but I actually chose Bop off the second album. Fantastic video, but more importantly, I think it's similar to Suge. It's that DaBaby flow. We all know it well at this point, but for whatever reason, I think that song I think I like the beat more, so I wanted to go with this one. But I mean, you placeholder for any kind of DaBaby song. Well, I think I don't like his albums quite as much as other people do, just because I feel like he has been a bit samey in his sound to this point. The energy he's brought on his singles and the success those singles have had, it's tough to underrate those, because he was just a whirlwind this year, and these songs are they're bangers. And Bop was my favorite one.
Bop is a great choice. And this music video rocks. The Jabberwockies, man. Like, awesome. All right, moving on. My number 5, Light Years by The National.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we're
National,
We're about to take it down here a bit.
Way to invalidate the list.
This is a great song, man. It's so
Everyone
simple.
Unsubscribe.
It's so simple. The piano on this is just like a simple chord progression and a couple of keys, and it sounds so good. And Matt Berenger sings so beautifully over this, and it's the closing song on the record. And they also had a visual album starring Alicia Vikander that came out with this, and it really beautifully wraps up that as well. And yeah, just I think probably one of the most beautiful songs that came out this year, and it's so simple, and I love it. So you may hate The National or may not like this song, but
I don't remember the song at all, to be honest.
It's very memorable to me. So my number 5. And also, if you're following these and you think, hey, I like these songs, or I want to hear these songs. We do have a playlist, Nowstalgia Best of 2019, where almost all these songs are featured on it. Dave, you number 5.
Number 5 for me is Robbery by the now late Juice WRLD. I never had any
Rip.
plans to pick the his second album, his final album, Death Race for Love, but Robbery and Hear Me Calling, the two big singles off that album, definitely I think are at the top of his catalog. And I went with Robbery, but it's kind of just like the perfect distillation of what Juice WRLD brought to the table. This combination of singing and rapping in a really, I think, genre blending way that was still true to his hip hop roots from the get go. And obviously, it's we talked about his passing recently. You can check that out on the channel. But he, of all the genre blenders, of all the SoundCloud rappers, kind of in this movement, he was the one making the most, I think, accessible music, and that's kind of why he rose to the top even faster than a lot of his peers did. And song like Robbery, where he just really gets really candid, like a lot of his other songs, about his struggles and his hurt, and it's just really relatable to the fans, anyone who listens. So yeah, I think this is I think it's an inspiring song to a lot of people. You can look for the acoustic videos people post of it, but unfortunately it was probably the last great song he made.
Yeah, that's too bad. Major Rip. We recently talked about his passing and kind of gave our thoughts on it, so check out that breakout. But a huge loss. Moving forward, though, number 4 for me was 17 by Sharon Van Etten.
There you go.
A decent album, but this song in particular is just a masterwork in songwriting. Talking about what it means to be 17, and also what it means to not be 17, to be older, and looking back at that time of life, and reflecting on age and people kind of coming up behind. And we're going to be talking about some up and comers in my next few songs. So this felt like appropriate to put her this high. And just a really beautifully crafted song. And even the way it like kind of enters in, it feels like the song almost feels like time moving by in a sense. Kind of like you're like almost like driving a car through your life. Just a really, really great track. And Sharon Van Etten, one of like the sneakily most consistently solid indie rock artists out there. Probably doesn't get enough credit for how good she has been. So I'm glad that she's getting some shine on a lot of lists, end of year list with 17. What do you got number 4?
Number 4 for me. So I made 3 repeats for what we did for with the albums list. So check that out if you're just watching the songs breakout. But it's Money Machine by 100 Gex. And this, not to repeat myself, but this is the I think the most accessible Gex song. If they had some that was friendly to radio, it would be Money Machine. But it still has all that manic energy of taking influences from literally everything that the rest of the album has. So it's my favorite song off the album, and perhaps one of the more tame ones, but it's just really cool and still unlike just about anything else I heard this year. So Money Machine by 100 Gex.
Good choice. Number 3 for me, Straight Outta Mumbai by Jai Paul.
Does this count?
It counts, man. It counts. I've seen it on other year-end lists, so I'm putting it on mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did it leak? 2012?
2012.
Yeah.
However, when did I hear it? 2019. So.
Okay. As long as you can rationalize it to yourself.
Yeah, that's all that matters, right? The lies we tell ourselves.
Correct. We make the rules here.
Jai Paul rules, and it's a travesty what happened to him, because there's so much in just these leaks, and they were released this year, more refined, more produced,
mastered.
Yeah, and it feels like out of all the tracks I put out, Straight Outta Mumbai would have been one that back in 2012, when this was stolen and leaked online, could have just like dominated the charts, because it feels a little bit like God, what was that Jay-Z song where he like infused like Indian sound to it? God, I gotta
I
think of
don't
the
know.
name, but um, it just feels like it takes from so many different worldly influences. Like it sounds a bit Indian, it sounds a bit Asian, it sounds like American dance at the same time, um, and it's just so catchy, and the song just kind of spins around in your head, and you feel like you're being transported um, to different parts of the world on it, and it just rules. And Jai Paul as a DJ producer is
Hmm.
just so talented. I want to see him do more.
Yeah,
I hope he does more.
yeah. I hope he's able to get, I mean, do what he wants. But I just wish he was a little more of a public figure, just because there's such mystery around him, and uh, leak whatever bait ones, whatever this album's called.
Like 412, whatever.
Yeah, the date it leaked. It was kind of put out without fanfare. It was kind of just internet critics being like, yo, big deal, big deal. These songs are like legitimately available now. And um, you think because of the creativity he has, if he, like, I know he has like the Paul Institute, but if he wanted to really branch out, I think he could. But if this is all we get, uh, I won't be too mad. Was the song you were thinking of for Jay-Z, Big Pimpin'?
No, I was thinking about the when he was on Punjabi MC's song.
Oh shit, okay.
Yes, that
Yeah, it's
song
funny.
rules.
I searched it, and there's a tweet from 2015. What's that Jay-Z song with an Arabic beat behind it? So
Yeah, no, I
yeah,
was thinking about one where he
not that Jai Paul's Arabic, but yeah.
no.
All right,
Um,
got it.
Anyways, yeah, sorry, that was what I was thinking of. What's your number 3, Dave?
Number 3, another repeat offender here. That would be too many pictures. That would be Lana Del Rey, The Greatest. The culture was lit. I had a ball.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I've seen The Greatest on a bunch of lists so far, and I was like, well, there's a lot of good songs in this. Let me be a little different. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, nah, this is the best song on the album. So I got to pick this one. This is I think Lana Del Rey just like at the peak of her powers. She can be candid and also cutting in her observations, and you know, we both liked the album a shit ton, and it was just cool as someone who was not a fan going in to really see the vision, I think, more fully realized for everyone.
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of the tip of the spear.
Yep. No, this is the best song off that album, and it's an amazing album. So that says a lot. But I think everybody's like end of the decade like Instagram posts are gonna be the culture was lit and I had a ball. I'm calling it now, or at least those who know.
Let me write that in my notes.
Number 2 for me, you talked a lot about her a second ago. Billie Eilish, Bad Guy.
Okay.
This song is just so much fun, and it's just like pop perfection mixed with emo and funkiness and goofiness, and
great video.
Yeah, it just feels like everything that really makes Billie Eilish such an exciting person to be tuned into as an artist. She's gonna go places, and it's because she can make songs like this at this age. Just awesome. It kind of reminds me of Austin Powers too every time I listen to it for some reason.
Oh, that's
not sure
funny.
why, but
yeah. Well, piggybacking off of that, my number 2 is My Strange Addiction by Billie Eilish.
There we go.
Song with the famous No Billy, the office drop.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, it's just Bad Guy's definitely the biggest hit off the album, probably the best song. I tried to pick something else, and she had plenty of hits off this, so it's not like no one ever heard this song or anything. But Bad Guy and My Strange Addiction, and even a lot of the other cuts, all the Good Girls Go to Hell, Wish You Were Gay. There's a lot of jams on this, but it's just kind of cool to see her understated delivery be able to ride her brother Phineas's production to such a point that like these are still like pop bangers, even though they're really like alternative pop, which is why I picked the album on my list. But yeah, she has the hit records now.
Yep,
it makes sense. It all makes sense now.
Absolutely. All right, we're wrapping it up. Number 1 for me, a song I turned you on to at the beginning of the year, and I was like, this is a really fun song, awesome pop song, and this artist pretty much became like one of the most popular artists of the year.
Little did we know.
Juice. Yeah, at the time we both like, yeah, this song sounds great. Well, let's add it to the playlist. Nowstalgia Best 2019 if you're on Spotify, and we were like, it'll be interesting. Why don't we review her album? And then by the end of the year, Lizzo is literally everywhere. She's every time I'm on Twitter, I see something about Lizzo, whether it's a meme, whether it's someone using her song, whether it's her with her ass out at Laker games. Like she's everywhere, and she's awesome, and she's such a great symbol for body positivity, for femininity, for just a lot of positive things. Her music is pretty much all positive, and I think Juice, because there were songs of hers that were more popular this year. Truth Hurts comes to mind.
Good as
Not a
hell.
song from this year, so I had to pick the song from this year I like the most, and that's
Mm-hmm.
Juice. And I think it's her best song from this year. And Lizzo rules. She's great.
Yeah. Um,
Lizzo thoughts. Give me your Lizzo thoughts, Dave.
yeah, I mean, like Billie Eilish, like DaBaby, like Megan Thee Stallion, someone who just became a superstar kind of instantaneously once those older songs really started to blow for her. And you know, she had I think some internet clout critically beforehand with those other projects,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, well, no one saw it getting to this level. And even if she's had some antics of late, you know, the other songs on that record, besides the big hits, are all really good. Songs like Jerome and songs like Juice, I think, are
Yep.
actually just underrated and under remarked upon songs at this point. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we didn't pick the album, but for our list, but yeah, it's hard to talk about 2019 music without talking about Lizzo, and that's not just because she was popular, but also because she was making interesting quality pop music that's a little different.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. You're number one though, Dave.
So my number one is Gone by Charlie XCX and Christine and the Queens. Did not pick Charlie on the album list, but when I was making my songs, I was like, you know, this song immediately jumped off the page to me when I heard it as one of those singles for the Charlie album.
Yep.
And it's just really, really great songwriting, which has always been Charlie's strength. And it also happens to fit into that alt future pop sound that she's been pioneering the past few years. Even while a lot of those songs are not becoming big hits, I think everyone is paying attention, is understanding the kind of ground she's been kind of pouring, laying, and seeing everyone else kind of follow in those footsteps, including Billie Eilish, is really cool. But Gone's just that's just a banger, man. That's a pop banger that I think really really holds up and really brought my attention to Christine the Queens. And
Yeah, Christine
yeah,
the Queens are awesome.
pretty easy pick for number one for me, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah, this was on my honorable mentions. It's a great choice, and Charlie XCX, probably the most like auteur pop artist that's out there. I
Definitely.
guess she's just
Unless you count like
fantastic.
FKA Twigs.
Yeah, right. Well, give me a couple honorable mentions, and we'll reset our list, and we'll head out.
Sure. Shout out Follow God from Kanye, Joke Ting by Goldlink, Kids by Rich Brian, Ransom by Lil Tecca. That was my number 2 listen to song on Spotify. You know, there's always a banger. There's always a banger to play. I like tons of Ariana songs from the new album. Only Child by Tierra Whack. My number 1 artist on Spotify this year is Blueface. So shout out, Bleed It. Shout out. Actually, all of his really good songs are from 2018, but shout out Bleed It. Shout out like Off White from Little Pump, some nonsense shit. Shout out Open the Shit Up by the Higher Brothers. I love Chinese trap music now. Yeah. I got honorable mentions for days. What about you?
I only have a couple that we didn't talk about. Back in My Body by Maggie Rogers. That whole album is
Love
really
that
good.
one.
We should give her more love. What Can We Do? Anderson .Paak and Nate Dogg. That song just feels like a 70s throwback, and it rules. Peach by Kevin Abstract. Yeah, that was an album that I really liked at the time, and that song has really stuck with me a lot. How Many Problems We Got? A lot. 21 Savage. Again, close to making my top 10 list. And then I think you covered most of the other ones here as I'm looking through. Yeah. Oh, and Midsection by Kate Shada and Pharrell. Still
Nice.
my favorite song from that album. Killing it.
Oh,
Dave, go ahead.
also shout out Dark Web by TGX6. Scam rap, one of the biggest new subgenres in hip hop this year, coming out of nowhere. Really, really fun. Yeah, I posted a 99 song rap playlist on Spotify where it was 99 different artists from 99 different rap songs. So you can consider those all honorable mentions and tons of variety there. So it's out there if you want more Rex.
More Rex. Dave, can you just give me your 10 to 1 again?
Yes, sir. Slide Away by Miley Cyrus. Meet Again by Maxo Cream. Family and Loyalty by Gangstar featuring Jermaine Cole. 101 FM by Lil Sims. Bop by DaBaby. Robbery by Juice WRLD. R.I.P. Money Machine by 100 Gex. The Greatest by Lana Del Rey. My Strange Addiction by Billie Eilish. And Gone by Charlie XCX featuring Christine and the Queens.
My 10 was a split. I Think He Knows, Taylor Swift. Watching My Room, Carly Rae Jepsen. 9, This Gospel, Kanye West featuring Clips and Kenny G. 8 was BM by Black Midi. 7, Drunk 2, Mannequin Pussy. 6, Hey Ma by Bon Iver. 5, Light Years, The National. 4, 17, Sharon Van Etten. 3, Straight Outta Mumbai, Jai Paul. 2, Bad Guy, Billie Eilish. And 1, Lizzo, Juice. That wraps it up. So talking best TV and movies from 2019, probably early in 2020, because we want to catch up before we really give our best of the year list. But stay tuned, because we also are going to be dropping that heat every week, dog. We're going to be bringing all the content, all the culture. So hit that subscribe. Go to youtube.com/nostalgiapod to watch all of our old videos and get all our opinions, and we'll see you next year. Peace out.